Cool. So I know it's your podcast, so I'm sorry if I'm asking a question, but curiosity, how do you, what's your outreach process? Because to get someone like Gary Vee, to get someone like, I don't know how to say his freaking last name, but Tom Bilyeu. Yeah, Tom Bilyeu. Like those are top level people, some of the best in the game. Like what's your outreach process?
How I've managed to get those people is through Twitter. Twitter's been the best place to get in contact with them. For a lot of other people, it's email and just pestering and being able to just give them, an understanding that I'm in it for the long term and willing to follow up. And sending video messages is actually a really key component of that. I've got in contact with Steve Weatherford just from putting a video of myself to the face and saying, this is who I am. This is why I want you to come on the podcast. People really seem to respect that and appreciate it.
So when you used Twitter, then what was your approach? Was it a DM or did you at them?
So I added how I got on with both of them was adding them on the timeline. And, everyone checks their mentions. Everyone checks their feed, even no matter if you get to the level of Gary Vaynerchuk or not. I'm sure he misses a lot, but the fact that he was just able to see it because he checks, because we all check. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's, I think, an important piece.
What do you say? Do you just say, hey, would you want to be on my podcast? Or
So for Gary Vaynerchuk, what happened was I posted a screenshot of me writing a blog post. I wrote about him in 2009 when I was 13 years old. And he followed me from that blog post. And after he followed me, I tweeted out that he followed me. And people in the comments said, hey, you got to go on this kid's podcast. And he was like, all right, I'll do it, And then for Tom, it was like I added him with my dream guests. And he said, this is an awesome list. And we made it happen from there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, man. But I want to focus this interview on you, and I want to direct it at you. And I appreciate the questions and curiosity, because I think we both have that innate curiosity of how things work and why they work. But first of all, just thank you for coming on the podcast. Sure. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I've admired your growth, and you're obviously a great marketer. And so I think that people are going to benefit from this conversation. So thank you for coming on.
Of course, man. Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I want to start it off with Kevin Hart. Why are you such a big Kevin Hart fan?
Dude, he's so positive. And I think I've been noticing this more and more is people are fuel, right? Like the people that you hang around, will literally fuel the micro decisions that you make or micro actions that you take every single day that will impact the macro outcome. So if your goal is to build this very successful startup and then you're constantly around negative people, dude, it's not going to happen, because those people are going to fuel the way that you go about your life every single day. If you're constantly around people, for example, that are just partying or smoking or not taking their day seriously, right? Actually not taking control of their day, then there's no way that all the things that you're going to be doing every single day are going to lead to the goal or the outcome of building a startup, right? Or if you're you're trying to be an athlete or whatever your goal is. And when I listen to, I don't know if you've listened to the Kevin Hart episodes with Joe Rogan, but what I noticed is two things. Is he keeps his circle very tight, and it's only people that are constantly making him a better person, right? They're pushing him. It's someone that's the head of business, or it's someone that keeps him on track with fitness, or someone that keeps him track just in his relationship with his wife, right? All these different areas that it's these people that keep him accountable, which is very important because you are human, so you are going to slip up. The other thing I noticed is the fact that he's fucking just so positive. He gets it that look, I am human, and my situation can be a ton way worse. And when you realize that your situation can be way worse, then you appreciate your day so much more. And the fact that some people wish they had your worst day, and having that perspective is just insane. And the other things, when I think of hardest working people in the room, he's definitely up there. The man's work ethic is insane. The amount of even if you, I don't know how much you've dove through his business resume, but it's nuts. He with Laugh Out Loud Productions and how many businesses are under that, his content productions, his movies, his stand-up, right? Like his deals with Fabletics. Like there's so many things that he does, and he just keeps going and he doesn't stop. And so like that's like an admirable thing. Because I think most people would just see him and he's very intelligent, like a very intelligent human being. And so I think when most people just see him as like this comedian, but in reality, like so much more, business person, father, good father figure, good husband. And then on top of that, just like good overall human being. And I think that's like one of my favorite things is the fact that he's so successful, yet so humble, and just like he gets that. And, yeah, I mean, like honestly, a huge inspiration to me is Kevin Hart. Huge.
It's so fascinating because when I look at people like Kevin Hart and Joe Rogan, both of them, what I've found and what I admire so much about them is that as they've gotten more successful, they've also gotten more positive from the outside looking in. Their vibration, if you're going to want to talk in that respect, has risen, in my opinion. And that's really cool because you usually see the opposite of like fame leading people to be more cynical and more harsher at the world. But both of them have managed to improve themselves mentally, it seems like from the outside, while becoming more successful. And I think that's very difficult to do.
I agree. No, I agree. I would say, Joe Rogan's in that same area where it's like, I think they both just realized that they're regular human beings that made it like through like very smart decisions, but in an intense level of hard work and focus. And then when you could like look back on that and realize like, dude, I'm a regular human being that I just chose to like take these X amount of steps that this other person didn't, then you have a different perspective on like, dude, I am no different than you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I am no better than you. I am no different than you. I am just someone that followed a different path because I wanted to achieve these results. And that's huge. Because then it gives you a good perspective on life. I think like one thing that helps like with that is like traveling. Traveling is like one of the best things that like keeps your perspective in line and keeps your perspective in an area where like you don't see yourself above other people because you get actually a better appreciation for others. And but yeah, I think Joe Rogan and Kevin Hart, like they've done a great job of getting very successful and remaining humble and remaining like just regular human beings who are just top of their class, right? Like top of their field.
Yeah. And I think travel is a huge one. I also think another one is putting yourself under difficult situations and purposely. You know, Kevin Hart works out consistently. Joe Rogan, same thing. I think that makes you really humble because you're like, look, I'm a human being. That hour working out was an hour of difficulty, no matter if you're famous, you're rich, or you're just an average person on the street. So yeah, that's a really important piece. You mentioned travel. Are there any particular places you've traveled that stand out in your mind?
I've been to Africa.
Really?
And that was insane in two ways. It was the culture. So like, my girlfriend and I, we went in March of 2020. So it was like a week before the pandemic actually became like the pandemic here in the US. So it was a very interesting time, but like we were there in Tanzania for like a week. And it was interesting because like I was there to film an event and the event fell through because of the pandemic. And so like we got the actual entire hotel to ourselves. So like we were at if you ever look it up, like the Four Seasons Serengeti, it's like the craziest hotel, honestly. Like it's built within the Serengeti. So like animals, lions, everything like crossed through your hotel. And
no way.
Yeah, and it was rad. Like, so we got like honestly very spoiled, insanely spoiled because they put us in the best villa. Like our villa had like and I'm not trying to like brag by any means, but like our villa had like a infinity pool that looked over like the Serengeti, and so like we could be in our pool and there's just lions walking by and there's elephants and it was like the wildest thing ever. But I you can ask my girlfriend to this day, it was like leaving that place. I had never left somewhere and actually like left in tears, and that was I did there, and it was not because like the amenities or nothing. It was because of the people, that we were with this tribe called the Maasai tribe, and man, I have never met so like genuine people in my life. And I still stay in contact with two of them regularly. And it made me just like realize like like, I mean, I've always been like this, but like you just go to see like, just because someone's across the world and they don't look like you, they're from different place, they have different perspectives. It's like that all that shit doesn't matter. Like it's literally about just like the connection and like just having a relationship with someone, and it was amazing. And I think the other end of that was then seeing the animals too. Like when you're around animals that could just like so powerful and could literally kill you in an instant, you're just like, wow, this is amazing to see those creatures just roam around, and like, because that's an entirely different life, right, than you and I are used to. When I was talking to the Maasai tribe, they were telling me that the way they grow up, they're like, they call lions cats. They're just regular cats to them. And so they were like, yeah, like we would have to fend off lions. Like when we cattle our sheep and stuff, they're like, yeah, like lions would try to attack and we would just have to fend them off. Like we do. And they don't call them lions. They're just like, yeah, they're just big cats. And I'm like, those are not big cats, dude. Like, it's not a big cat. And so I would definitely say Africa. And then, the Philippines was another that you just see how lucky you are. I mean, in both places. Like, and when I say that, I'm referring to like, we have opportunity all around us, right? Like, we have opportunities to build things and to start things. And like, for example, your podcast, this would be so hard to do in Africa. This would be not as hard in the Philippines because you could be in a big city, but still like in Africa, very hard. In Philippines, it could be hard. And so like when you look at how much opportunity is just around us, it opens your eyes to like, I am lucky. I am very fortunate. And yeah, I would Europe more opened my eyes just to like the beauty of the world. Culture too, but like you could do just about like most of the things that you could do in the US, you could do in Europe. Like if you're trying to build or start something. I know that like the entrepreneurship hunger is different in Europe than it is here. Like entrepreneurship isn't praised in Europe as much as it is here in the US. But I would say like Europe opened my eyes to like the beauty of the world. And it's like where I got like my itch to travel, and it's actually even how I got into marketing overall and like content creation was traveling. I grew up, an obsessed football player, like very obsessed. And when I say that, I mean, my senior year of high school, I would drive my entire, going in from my junior to my senior year of high school, that entire summer I spent, I would drive 2 hours each way just to lift at a particular gym and to train there. And I did that my entire summer. So like literally my entire life just was revolved around football. And I ended up playing at FIU, which is in Miami, which is a Division I university. And when I stopped playing football because I got an injury, it was like an identity crisis. I was like, oh shit, like I guess I'm not going to the NFL. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh shit. And so from there, like I had like an identity crisis. I'm like, what do I do? Well, like if I'm not playing football, like what's going to be my next focus? And I didn't have one. And so I picked up a camera, and which is weird because I was not always anti-camera, but like growing up, you know, like your mom would be, hey, let's take a family picture. I was like, I'm good. Like that's not like why. And so I picked up a camera, like a Canon T5i, I think it is, which is like a cheaper camera. And I went and I saved up some money and I went to Europe for a month. And that was like, that just like opened my eyes to like content creation from a completely different angle, right? Like I was in Europe, but my content creation was from the side of like, I was taking landscape photos and I was trying to put together, clips of like travel clips. And I think that was like during, you know, the era of like Instagram kind of taking off. And so like, there was all this like hype around travel photos and photography and videography. And so I like kind of fell into that arena, and I still love it to this day. But that like kind of opened my eyes to content creation, and I started developing like an itch for being a creator. And that's another thing I think that comes from traveling is like because you're opening up to different perspectives, you get like different itches for different curiosities that you get to explore, right? But yeah, like just to go back, Africa and Asia, two places that really helped me like connect with other people and help me like really dial in my perspective on one, how fortunate we are to have opportunity all around us, but then also just to have perspective for other people and be more compassionate and empathetic towards others.
You mentioned in Africa, the Maasai tribe were real genuine people. What made them so genuine, and how did you get connected with them?
So they were like the employees of the hotel. So it was like the entire hotel was ran by the Maasai tribe, right? Like there was obviously the managers and whatnot, but like the people that actually ran, because they try to, like the Four Seasons specifically, they try to give you an actual like experience of Africa. And so the Maasai tribe is, I think can you hear me? Oh, okay. The Maasai tribe specifically, like they're working there, and man, it was every little thing. You could tell that they enjoyed doing it and that they were like cared doing it. So for example, anytime, because I was telling you that the way the Four Seasons Serengeti is built, if like this is a Serengeti, it's just built on stilts, and like you're like 10 feet above ground, and so you could walk through the hotel like that, but the animals could come through, like lions could, every animal could kind of come through. So at night, when like our room was the last room, and so anytime you walked at night, you had to get walked by like a Maasai tribe, like someone from the Maasai tribe, because of the animals and whatnot. And when I tell you that they were like excited to walk you at 11 o'clock at night, at 12 o'clock at night, it was like, dude, how, like, and like every single thing that they did, it was just like pure excitement. I like got to know these two, Mufasa and Meshach. And those are the two I still talk to this day. But they, like, we got to chatting, and like they were our servers for like dinner, and like I just like everything was just so happy, like huge smiles. And so the next day, like him and I worked out he like took me to like their gym that they have, and like we were working out. Like he like picked me up at like 5 a.m. and it's just like, dude, always smiling. And I'm just like, that's what I realized, just like they're just enjoying every single thing that they're doing, like legitimately never ask for like a tip, nothing, none of that. Like it was just pure happiness and like pure like just desire to be with other people. The same thing, like we had a driver, like we would do game drives, like when they take you in the cars throughout the Serengeti, and we had this gentleman, Calvin, and dude, it was the same thing. Like just did everything to make your experience great, and then on top of that was just like cheerful the entire time, and it made it so much better. That's why I was telling you, when I left, like I was literally in tears. I'm like, dude, I fucking want to be around these people all the time. Like they're making me happy, right? Like they're making me just happy all day. And that's what I was like referring to earlier, is people are fuel. Like that's that's infectious. Like infectious, because to be around a bunch of people that are constantly happy and uplifting and just enjoying life, those are the people you want to be around, because that will outpour into the decisions and the actions that you take. And dude, I would say going to Africa, if you can, like I know that's like a funny thing to say, like to go to Africa, but like if you can, do it, because in many ways it's going to be like one of the most amazing things you do, from the people to on top of that, then like the experience of seeing like wild animals. But
very cool. How do you bring that back to the United States?
Dude, it's just you have to, when you have bad days, or like when you're stressed out over dumb shit, which happens a lot of times, when you're just like, you think your day's so bad because maybe like you missed a meeting, or you got like 2 meetings today, or you have like little things. You have to have perspective of like, dude, like people have it way worse. They would love to have your worst day, And the other thing too is like, I think as you progress in success, it's like the days that you wish you had when you were not at that level are now your days, and you're complaining about it, right? Like you have to have that perspective of, because I remember when I like at one point where I'm like, oh man, like I wish I could network with all these kinds of people, right? And then I get to the point where I can, and I can network with all these kinds of people, and I'm like, damn, my day is so loaded. I don't have any time to, and it's like perspective, like, whoa, rewind a little bit. 6 months ago, you wish you could have been in this position. Now you are in this position. So appreciate it. Like, appreciate that you made it. And then tell yourself, like, oh, not, fuck, I have all these things to do today, but instead, like, I get to talk to this person today. I get to learn from this person today. And that's going to, like, kind of backtrack you a little bit and put you in a position, in a perspective, like, okay, like, let me appreciate this, because I wish, at 6 months ago, I wish I was in this position, and now I am. Like, appreciate your success. And that's when it comes down to, like, appreciating your journey and taking it day by day. But I think that the best way is, like, and it's probably what you do, like meditating 20 minutes, like, that is I say probably because I haven't done it consistently, but that is probably a great way to be grounded and to go into your day with a positive mindset and not in a reactive state. Most people go through their day in, like, in a reactive state. And so therefore, when your day is, like, bottlenecked by this and that, then you're in this position where, like, you're uptight, you're stressed, and you don't want to go through your day like that, because then you don't enjoy the things that you do. So I'm sure if I meditated, if I did that consistently, I would go through a little less stressed, right? I would go through my day with a better perspective. But the times that I am stressed, or I legitimately do think back, and the one thing I say that changes my mindset is not I have to do this, but I get to do this. And if I say that, then I have a better perspective of why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and why I'm lucky to do that. Like, I'm blessed to be able to do that. So I would say that's the biggest thing is I think perspective's huge. Like, perspective is something that can change literally your everyday feeling and happiness and way that you go about your life.
You mentioned the journey of 6 months ago. You wanted to be in the position you're in right now. You want to take us through that journey and how that journey began?
For me specifically?
Yeah.
And so there's this guy, Blake, that I was talking to on Twitter yesterday. Like, he messaged me. It's like, hey, dude, like, my tweets, he, like, just started going heavy on Twitter. And he's, like, writing his threads, like, doing the whole, like, growth tactic. And he started at, like, 50, 60, 70 followers, like nothing, right? Like, not a lot is what I'm trying to say. And now
we all do,
right? Yeah. And he's been going hard for the last, like, 2 months, and he's grown to, like, 8,000 or 9,000 followers. Like, he's grown substantially. He's going to cross probably 10K either at the end of this month or, beginning of August. And he messaged me. It was just like, dude, like, this one's a dud. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, what's going on? And I was like, dude, like, look back at 2 months ago. 2 months ago, four retweets, 5 retweets, and 30 likes, you would have been like, holy shit, this is a great tweet. Like, hell yeah. And I was like, you have to have that perspective. Like, not everyone's going to be a grand slam. Like, not everyone's going to be a home run that gets you X amount of followers and your email list grows or whatever grows. So you have to have the perspective of 2 months ago, this would have been your best tweet. And if you could understand that, then you're going to go throughout this process understanding or liking the journey and being more in tune with the journey as well. And so for me specifically, I think my journey has been like this, like, in so many ways, right? Like, before I am in the position that I am now, 3-4 years ago, I started a marketing agency called Social First here in Austin. It was, like, more of a boutique agency, which just means, like, you more so work with like, it's small, like 1 to 2 people, and that was, like, my first stab at not entrepreneurship, because this is another story, but, like, when I was in college, I welded weightlifting equipment, like, as a side hustle. The reason was I didn't have money to do it, like, to buy the equipment that I wanted. And my dad worked at a steel mill, like, when he was younger. And so he had, like, a connection. And so I bought a welder, and I bought, like, a drill press and, like, cutting machine, and I built the equipment so that I didn't have to buy it. And it was great. And then it turned into a side hustle. But, so I built a marketing like a boutique agency here in Austin, and it did well. It did really well for 2 years. It got to the point where it did 250,000 the second year, and like that's a huge win, right? Like I'm like, that's fun, but I hated it. Like I don't like services. And so what's funny is I think creators specifically, or like solopreneurs, a lot of times they don't know how to like monetize their skills. And so most creators, they think the only way to monetize their skills are to start an agency, because then you provide your skills as a service. And that's not that that's not a good route, but that's most of the time not the route that creators should go. And so my agency did well, but I hated the aspect of growing an agency. Agencies aren't my thing. And I rather create content. I rather be a creator and put things out to the world that compound and produce results that way. And so when 2 years into the agency, I called it quits. I was like, this is not what I want to do at all. And so I had to take a step back and essentially take a pay cut in many ways, because I went from making what I didn't make 250K, right? Like that was how much the agency would make. But I had to go from that to then taking a salary at the hustle. Like I basically was like, okay, like I'm going now to be an employee. I am going to go to a startup and I'm going to learn how to build a media company. Like that's what I want to do. And I had to take all these steps back, but you have to enjoy that process. Like, look, I'm starting back at ground zero. And I even took a position where that I was overqualified for in my opinion, because like with my agency, I'd done so many other things, right? Like I've done influencer marketing, I've done paid ads, I've done landing page development, I've done social, like all these different areas. And then so I had to take a position that literally basically in some ways like regressed my process or my progress, just to be able to then progress again. And so I took a position at the hustle, and for a year I worked my ass off there and learned the ins and outs of, okay, how do you build a modern day media company? And then I would say like the last 5 months of that, I was like, okay, like I learned what I needed to learn. Now let's start building one. That was like my whole thing. I was like, okay, now let's actually get into building one from the ground up. So I still worked at the hustle, and then I started really starting to develop my brand on Twitter. Let's apply everything you know about marketing that you learned from the marketing agency. Let's apply everything that you've learned from working at the hustle and from helping build that up, and let's now apply it to yourself and your personal brand and developing what you want to develop in this world. And so I started what's called MarketingExamined, and that started on the back end of like I did this. I think you know of it, like the 50 marketing threads that I did back to back to back. So I was like, okay, like I need to, if I'm gonna do this, I need to form a digital identity. Like what are people gonna know me for? Like, and it was marketing. Like I want to be known as like the marketer, the growth guy, right? Like that's the identity I want to form. And so how do you hyper speed that process? Well, you do something very consistent on a platform that has distribution built in, which is, in this case, it's Twitter. And so I focused on 50 days. I am going to write a thread, which is essentially an article breaking down something marketing related that's going to help other people. That was like my entire like thesis. And over the course of did that, right? Like I literally, like we mentioned earlier, I started at maybe 500 followers, 600 followers at that time, because I like toyed with some stuff previously and like, gained a little bit of traction. But again, like 500, if you're going to really try to build something, like 500 is not anything absurd to start from. Like it's not the craziest starting point. And at the end of the 50 days, I was at like 40,000 followers, and I on the first thread or the second thread, I spun up like a quick landing page. I was like, okay, well, I don't only want to have these people on Twitter, right? Like and I don't know if you want me to go into more marketing stuff, but like Twitter's, in my opinion, or not my opinion, like this is just facts, like it's a rented audience, which means Twitter controls your audience, right? Like it controls your reach, the algorithms control your success. And what that means is at any point, right? And you hear people complain about this on Instagram, but at any point an algorithm can change and you previously would reach 30% of your audience. The algorithm can change and now you reach 10% of your audience. So therefore it's rented. It's like it's a landlord literally jacking up the rent and saying, okay, if you want to reach more people, you got to pay more money. You got to run ads. Like that's how we make money. So this is how you're going to get in front of people, is by running ads. And so my whole theory is, okay, well, I'm going to use the rented audience to build an owned audience, which then means having an email list. So building out something on, did you start super simple, MailChimp or ConvertKit, like something, one of those tools. I'm going to use this tool, as in Twitter, to then build an own audience. Because if you start building an owned audience, as in an email list, you have a business. If you get 5,000 people on an email list, you have a business. Like first off, you could sell that to a business and make, probably with 5,000 people on an email list, you could sell it for like $50,000, because it's people pay $10 to $15 per email. So like that's a business, right? Like you literally get acquired. But I was going to use that as a tool to then build my newsletter, which is Marketing Examined, which is a newsletter that I send out twice a week. On Tuesdays, I send a more tech-centric email, which focuses on one topic. So like tomorrow's topic is email marketing. So I'm breaking down five different emails that like businesses essentially can't neglect, right? Like, and I call it 5 Tactic Tuesday, but it's broken down into example, tip, breakdown, execution. So the example will be like X company. The tip is like, just like the main value prop, like this is what you should do. The breakdown is like why, and then the execution is like how you can replicate it. That's what I send out on Tuesdays. On Thursdays, I send out like a more visual centric newsletter, which is usually in the form of an infographic, and that's something that's newer that I'm doing. I'm testing, but that could be something like Apple's copywriting, like an infographic breaking down Apple's copywriting for like webs or websites. Last Thursday was all about growth loops, which is just like how the fastest companies grow, right? Like they grow via growth loops. And I mean, that's like kind of this, my newsletter is just going to be another channel for growth. But again, like all that, I know your question was about the journey. But to get here, though, it was like a roller coaster, right? Like it was, okay, I built something. And here's one thing I learned too, is like, just because you built something, that doesn't have to be the end all be all of what you build in the future. I built something, and you can't be like married to the things that you build. Like I built it, it was successful, I learned, and I got everything I needed to get out of it. And you have to be okay with moving on and doing other things, because every fucking day you grow and you change, and your interests and your curiosities change, and and that's part of the journey. So like if you want to amplify and enjoy your journey, then you have to understand that like you're going to change throughout it, and it's okay, and you have to accept that change. And then and like roll with the punches, because every time something changes, it's like you're going to be met with a ton of challenges. Like when I was doing the agency, the things that I was doing on a day-to-day basis were very different than the things I'm doing on a day-to-day basis now. So like at some point, I'm a beginner again, and you have to be okay with being a beginner in multiple phases of your life. Like you have to be okay with because when I'm building the agency, like I got to a point where I'm like advanced, right? Like in theory, like I'm in an advanced state. And so people don't like to get out of an advanced state because it's comfortable, right? Like I know how to do things now. When you want to do something else, you're back to being a beginner. You're like, fuck, how do I get from now 0 to 1? Like I already got from Y to Z. Now I got to get from nothing to A, like, or from 0 to 1. And you have to be comfortable with getting in that position and coming out, getting out of that position to then get to another area. But that's how I progressed through my journey.
Why do you think you were so drawn to marketing and growth?
Because of traveling. Because I what I've noticed is marketing brings like-minded people together. So that's the basis of good marketing. It's not ClickFunnels. It's not trying to get someone to, buy a sale, etc. The marketing is like the base of any community because it builds people together, or it brings people together. And so that's why I was drawn to it, is because I essentially, it's like my way, in theory, it's like your way of finding a ton of people that you would connect with, and you bring them towards a product or towards something that all of you guys love. Collective, you all like it. And so when you really think of what marketing truly is, it's that. It's bringing those people together. It's putting the right products in front of the right people to improve their life. So it's like, how's that negative, right? And I mean, people always shit on marketers. It's like, oh, marketers ruin everything. It's true, like we do, because like too many marketers they're focused solely on like transactions instead of in many ways relationships. And I think they ignore the fact that relationships lead to transactions. If I've continuously made your life better through my content, at some point when I drop something that has a price tag on it, you're gonna want to purchase it, because you, in some ways, not you feel indebted to me, but you like feel obligated. Like, look, you've already done X for me, now let me do X for you. And on top of that, then there's levels of like engagement where people always want more. So like if I'm putting out something that's free, that's like the true fans are going to want something more. They're going to want more deeper content. And so you release like a paid subscription, right? They're going to want that. And then you launch X and they're going to want that. And so when I think about why marketing, is because I love people. I love to, like, this is marketing. Like, why is this not marketing, right? Like, we're two people that have similar interests, and now we're having a good conversation. It's like, in many ways, this is marketing, right? Like, this is going to be on YouTube. This is going to be on Riverside, and it's going to be distributed, and naturally, it's going to be distributed and find other people who like discussions like this. That's marketing. And then the other things are just tools. Like, social media is a tool. Paid ads are a tool. Email marketing is a tool. Those are all tools to further extend the relationship in other areas and other arenas. But overall, like, marketing is just like about people. And I think one of the best examples, even though like this isn't me or like how I am, but it's Harley-Davidson. Like, if you ever like, and why I say it's like most, like, a lot of people don't like, I guess, the people that are, involved in Harley-Davidson, and that's fine. Like, I'm not using that as the example. What I'm using as the example is, look at people like Harley-Davidson. They ride the same motorcycles, or they look very similar. They all wear like the same like leather jackets and have patches. They'll go on like long bike trips together, or whatever, road trips. And if you think about it, it's like that came down to one brand forming an identity and bringing X amount of people together. And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? But and the reason I use that as an example is because it's crazy. It's like an obsessed group of people that will go and do like all sorts of things together, right? They'll hit up bars, they'll go do a 200-mile road trip. And when you think about it, it all started with a brand that brought these people together. But when it feels so authentic and seamless, then it doesn't feel like it's marketing. The only time it feels like it's marketing is when it feels like it's very salesy or tacticky, right? Like, it's just driven by tactics. So when you're more so just driven by bringing people like that have collective interests together, then that's true marketing. And that's I think the person that puts it best, or the person that talks about it right, is like Seth Godin. I don't know. You're familiar with Seth Godin? Okay. Yeah, he talks about like your minimal viable audience, which is the start with the first 10 people that, if you went missing tomorrow, they'd be like, where is he? Like, what happened, right? You want those kind of people, not people that just swiped a credit card, or, inserted or put their credit card information, got your product, and then you never really care about them anymore, and they don't care about you, because that's literally just revenue. Like, that's not anything. And so you want to be able to focus on the people that care about you, care about your interests, and would like to get to know you in some ways. And that's where then like brand marketing, brand affinity come into play. And I think that's the secret behind any marketing. think about it. Like, I'm wearing an Apple hat, and the reason I wear it is, right, I identify as like an iPhone user, right? I identify as someone that's very interested in the identity that Apple has created over time, which is the fact that like this specific campaign, Think Different, was a campaign specifically around like the people that during history thought different and created moments of progress, right? Like Einstein, in this case, Steve Jobs, and the people that thought different, the people that went against the grain, went against the norm and created progress, right? And so when Apple continues to evolve, they are like a magnet to people that want to be like those people, right? So they're really marketing to people because it's other folks who are like, oh wow, if I have an iPhone, that means I can also be different. I can also go against the grain. I have the tool that could help me achieve X. It could help me progress this world. And so that's an identity, and that's the same identity that forms then a community. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so obsessed with marketing, is because like if you do it right, then you're really just bringing an awesome group of people together, and your product is just a byproduct of that. Like, or the success of your product is just a byproduct of that.
How has participating in Olympic weightlifting made you a better marketer?
I think it was kind of what you touched on earlier. It's like you have to force yourself to do hard things consistently, and I'm not sure if it's made me a better marketer, but it's made me a more disciplined marketer, right? It's made me, because like what you said, it's the fact that you have to every day grind and put yourself through like strenuous situations and put your body and your mind through things that are very difficult. When you go about the rest of your day, everything else is easier. I said this literally to my girlfriend this morning. She was like, we were in the car and she said something, and I was just like, damn, I'm tired. I was like, this is the hardest thing you're going to do today. Like, nothing else after
on the
this.
way to the gym.
Yeah. Like, as soon as we pulled up, she mentioned that. And I was like, this is literally the hardest thing you're going to do today. Like once you conquer this, the rest of your day is going to feel very easy. So if I could go to the gym early in the morning and put myself through some bullshit, then sitting down to write or to schedule an email or to figure out, how to configure my Facebook pixel, like these easy things. It's like, it feels like cake. It feels like nothing. And so, I mean, I think overall, it's just made me more disciplined, and it puts the perspective of like these other things that I want to accomplish or do throughout my day are easy in comparison to what I already did. I would just, yeah, like it changes your mood. I think it's like the biggest mood enhancer if you can, conquer something. Like if you could tackle something in the morning that's very difficult and conquer it, then your mood throughout the days, you feel like it's a dopamine of, wow, I did something very difficult. I conquered this, which usually people get conquered by even the thought of doing something in the morning. And if you could conquer that, and it's like, I am one step ahead of other people. Like, I've already done something hard. And I mean, I think that's the main thing. The other area, like I see it from like another potential, like there's areas in like fitness that I want to do, like develop a brand, but that's like more long-term ideas. But yeah, I mean, overall, I just think it's the discipline aspect that comes into play from weightlifting and competing. I'm an ultra competitive person. Like I bet on everything I do. Like we have a Nerf basketball thing right here, and I don't think there's a day that I don't bet my girlfriend or my roommate, like, hey, I bet you I'll beat you. Like I say that probably every single day. And so I mean, that's just that, like, just then bleeds into, I want to build the best marketing newsletter, not because I want to like tear down other people. I just want to build the best one. Right. But yeah, overall, it's just the discipline that comes from it, and like the high of completing something and letting it bleed into the rest of your day.
Where does the competitive aspect of it come from?
Dude, I think I was just born like that because um, I don't remember the thing that like anything I do, I like legitimately want to be the best at. And then again, like I only compete in things I know I'll be good at. Like I don't, like that's part of the strategy. I'm not gonna um, what's something trying to think of like a sport that I'd be very bad at. Fuck. Yeah, I think see like my mindset is only towards like basketball, football, track, like things that I grew up doing. So it's hard to even think of like other sports. Like I don't know, badminton, like it's like
Table tennis, swimming.
yeah, see, okay, ping pong I suck at. I'm good at pickleball. Like that's a new thing I've been picking up with pickleball. I suck at ping pong. But I've never like put effort towards it. I only put effort towards the things that like I enjoy doing. I'm like it's fun to just like play with friends, but it just comes from like I'm naturally an obsessive person. Like I think when you were naturally an obsessive when you're naturally an obsessive person, then like your competitiveness just is through the roof because you want to accomplish X things, and that's been how I've always been my entire life. I mean, sports growing up to me was literally everything. To the point where I was like saying, like I like in high school, I never went to one party. I never like tried.
Wow.
Yeah, I never went to one party. I never went like tried alcohol until I was 21. Like things that you like most people, you would do. And it was just because I was like, dude, if I do these things, like someone else is grinding. Like that was legitimately my mindset in high school and playing football. So I was like, if I'm at this party, then someone's out there doing football drills. Someone's out there lifting. Someone's doing these things. And so I never wanted someone to have edge over me. And so that like I make up these scenarios in my head where I like, if I don't do this, then someone's gonna beat me. And so that mindset of like me kind of always creating these scenarios in my head just led me to always being very competitive, and I compete against myself though, like it's not just competing against other people. I compete against myself daily. Like I track everything. I track my times. I track my lifts. I track everything because I want to know that I'm beating myself from last week, right? Like that's the only way to know I'm actually progressing. But man, it's just your competitiveness though comes from you like from being curious and scratching those curiosities and then becoming once you like scratch it, then you get momentum, and then once you gain momentum on something, then that's where the obsession comes. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but like Kobe Bryant, for example, when like the perfect person to talk about like competitive and being
Was just going to bring him up.
Oh really? Okay.
So weird.
Yeah, so for example, Kobe, he was terrible at basketball. Terrible. But it was his curiosity. Like he wanted to become a good basketball player. But when he was growing up, he played on an AAU team, and he went an entire season without scoring a point. Think about that. Kobe Bryant went an entire AAU season without scoring 1 point. The person who scored 81 points in a basketball game didn't score 1 point in an AAU game, right? Like that doesn't even make sense if you think about it. And so he talks about it. It's like, dude, I was curious. I had that curiosity. I realized I fucking sucked, but this is what I wanted to be. And so then he outworked people. And I think like some people hate on hustle culture or hustle culture, hustle porn. It's like, no, like if you do want to be the best at something, then you do have to work harder than literally the other 100% of people, not 99%. You have to work better than 100%. If you like legitimately want to be the best person at your craft, then you have to work harder than everyone, because it takes the skill, and then it also takes the discipline and the hard work to complete something. But Kobe Bryant's the perfect example of like he had a curiosity. If he would have went that season, scored 0 points, and was just like, damn, I suck at basketball. Like I am never doing this again. Look at everything he would have left on the table. 5 championships, like scoring 81 points, being up there with like Michael Jordan and the best players of all time. So, I mean, he's just like a prime example of that.
I believe it was Kobe who wouldn't play golf because he just couldn't be the best at that. So he had no interest. So it reminds me of you not thinking about the things that you wouldn't be good at. And it's just like you focus all your time and attention on the one thing or the few things that you can be the best in the world at. And it's really so true in today's day and age of the fact that culture has kind of shifted where hustling was the thing that people gravitated the most towards in 2010, maybe. Now in 2021, it is something that can get demonized. Have you felt that level of people telling you slow down, take a break, relax, and has that gotten to you at all?
It hasn't gotten to me. No, I think it's lame. Just like I, for example, I put a tweet out like a month ago, and it literally just said weekends for building. That's all it said.
People got so mad at that.
And the craziest thing was, I'm talking about myself. Like, I'm not talking about you. I don't give a fuck what you do today. Like, I am literally just talking about myself and what I'm doing because this is when I was working at the hustle. So I was like, working at the hustle, I'm working 40 to 50 hours a week. And so when I'm trying to work on my side hustle, the majority of my time on the weekend is being able to build this up and to make sure it maintains momentum. And so when I say weekends are for building, I'm talking about me. And so many people were like, yeah, weekends are also good for spending time with your family, spending time with your kids. Someone was like, man, it must really suck to have such a one-dimensional life. And I was like, bro, what? Like, why are you even taking this angle? Like, that's such a weak angle. Like, not mentally weak, but like more like just like, why are you even saying that? What's the point of that? Like, I'm legitimately talking about me building my project. And I'm like, dude, I'm 26. Like, I don't have kids. Like, what? Got 2 dogs. Like, that's it. Like, why do you even care? And so, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Like, you have to work hard. Like, do you have to be Elon Musk and work 80 hours? No. Right? Like, but if you do want to do things that are, leave a footprint in this world, and like you want to do things that matter to people, then you're going to have to work harder than most people. And that's a given. And if you want to achieve things, then you have to work hard at them. Like, they're not just going to fall on your lap, like, ever. Right? Like,
and also
put in the hours.
If you don't want to, that's cool too.
Exactly.
If you want to relax and play with your kids or whatever it may be, if you want to work 40 hours a week and have a job that you enjoy doing and then you're happy at, hell yeah, that's amazing. If you want to build something amazing and foregoing time with your kids to build that crazy thing that leaves an imprint on humanity, that's amazing too. I think there's a way to do both, but like, people need to decide for themselves what path is right for them, right?
Exactly. And not judge someone else's path, because I think that's why would you get bent over shape over someone doing what you're not doing, right? I think David Goggins is the perfect person, like, when it comes to this. It was like, he's like, people want to like label you or talk about what you're doing so that makes them feel better about what they're doing, right? So like, most likely the person that's giving me a ton of shit on Twitter has a goal that he's not going towards. Most likely, like, this is hypothetical, but like, most likely they have a goal that they're going towards that they haven't fully committed to, and so therefore they're like maybe attacking me in some way to make an excuse for what they're doing that weekend, maybe. But yeah, it's like, why? Like, you shouldn't care what I'm doing. Like, what I'm doing is what I'm doing because it's because what I'm focused on. It's helping me get towards where I want to go, and so therefore let me do it. Like, it's not very like opinionated. Like, I don't care what you're doing. You do what you're doing because it's making you happy, and I'm gonna do what I'm doing because it's making me happy. Like, it's very simple.
Do you think that once you reach a certain size on Twitter, or when a tweet gets a certain escape velocity to a certain amount of people, it then becomes, you hear so many different views and viewpoints that it's only natural that some are going to heavily disagree with you or point out the flaws?
Oh, for sure. there's some people that like their only goal in engaging with someone is just to hate, bro. And there's literally no point. I think one thing I've noticed too is like say you write something and before it blows up, so you read it and you're like, oh, this is good. And then it like goes viral. And it's like, well, it's not that good. You start hating on it because it's like succeeding so much. And that's just like, I don't control that, right? Like if someone I know like has a very viral tweet and it goes viral, it's like, dude, he didn't control that it went viral. The algorithm just played in his favor. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like, as soon as something starts succeeding so well, then it's like you have to find ways to hate on it or to find ways to put a negative view on it. Like, I don't know if you just saw, but Simone Biles from the Olympics, they just basically told her that she's so talented that they're going to start rating her like the way they score her. They're not letting her score higher than what she would score because the moves that she's doing are so much better than the other Olympic athletes that it would make them feel bad. Like literally it's like the most like what is it like participation award thing. Like I just read an article probably 20 minutes before we got on the podcast and it was like, that's crazy. These are Olympic athletes. These are the best of the best and you're creating a participation award for it. Like you should read about it because it's nuts. That
we'll link it below.
Yeah, I'll try to find it. I'll link it.
Yeah,
but
so
it's crazy.
It's so crazy because have you heard of Andy Frisella's mentality of 100-0? Like you just want to dominate the opponent to that level, to that point where you're doing as much as you possibly can, and that really stuck out because in today's day and age, it's like, oh, give the other person a chance when you're competing with them. Really just do the right thing, quote unquote. It's like, no, you want to dominate. You're in a competition. Give it your all to the best of your abilities because if you don't, you're going to be sitting there at night thinking, oh, could I have won 100-0? Could I have done better? Could I have? So it's like you're competing. If you lower your level of competition, in many respects, you're doing a disservice to the other person as well. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Have you ever watched The Last Dance?
I'm like 3 episodes in right now.
Oh,
it's amazing.
I'm not gonna spoil it. So it's literally what I'm someone that has to like fall asleep to something, like, and it's what my girlfriend hates it, but it's what I fall asleep to like every single night. I've probably gone through it. I'd have to say if Netflix did like an amount of like how many times someone like if there was like a
hour spent,
like watching The Last Dance, I've probably watched it more than anyone. Because it's like honestly, it sounds weird, but like it puts me in the right mindset before bed of like, this is how I want to be when I wake up. Like, this is the mentality just towards his mentality towards his specifically towards basketball, like mine towards marketing and the things I want to pursue. I'm like, this is how I want to go about my life. And it kind of always keeps me in the right mindset. But dude, you're gonna love and enjoy The Last Dance. If you're on episode 3, it's gonna start getting good. Like, because right now it's like kind of telling you about like Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman and like kind of giving you their backgrounds. Once they start like getting into like more of the playoff basketball and I was just so you remember, episode 7, the end of episode 7 is like it will give you goosebumps. It is like. It really puts in perspective his mind. I don't want to. I would love to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it for you.
Talk about it.
Because Michael Jordan starts to cry at the end of episode 7 because like they ask him, did your like level of intensity and your level of playing the game of basketball make you like an unlikable person? That like your perceived notion of like you are not a nice person. And he like does this like 3 minutes of just talking about why he's so intense and why he pushes people. Like I get goosebumps even talking about it. So it I'm not going to give away what he says, but like he just breaks down why he's so intense and why he plays the game of basketball with the level of intensity that he does. And you see it then in people like Kobe and how it like um, how it like came from him and like kind of worked its way down to someone like Kobe. But um, his the way he goes about playing basketball is like the way, if you want to be great at something, that's the way you should go about whatever your niche is that same intensity. If you're trying to be one of the top people, the way he attacks a basketball court and the way he attacks his opponents is the way you should go about your things.
Do you think that, how would the world look if everyone gave Michael Jordan's intensity to their own life? And do you think that it should be that way? Do you think we need other people to not operate in that level?
Yeah, I don't think everyone should operate that on level. I only think if your legitimate desire is to be the best at something, then yeah, you should operate at that level. But no, not everyone. Some people should just be employees, right? Like you need those people. You need the founders, the visionaries, the builders, and you need those people that take things to extremes to like accomplish extreme levels of success. And he's one of them, right? Like 6 championships, 3 back-to-backs, or 2 back-to-backs. Like you need that level of obsession to complete something like that. On the same end, it's like Steve Jobs. Like his level of obsession is insane, right? Like he's gotten that same perception of like, he lost the perception of being a nice person because of how intense his work ethic and how intense his desire to accomplish something was. But that's why he's seen as as like one of the most innovative founders in the world. And that's why Michael Jordan is seen as the best basketball player to ever play on a basketball court. And it's because their level of intensity is like, dude, I don't care about your feelings. I'm just trying to accomplish X. And if you want to follow along, then we're going to accomplish X.
So Michael Jordan and Steve Jobs are both known as incredible visionaries, but also arrogant individuals for the way they might have belittled their people around them or those working for them. Do you think there's a possible way to do it with kindness at that level, or do you think it's impossible?
I don't know. I really don't know. Because the other person I compare Michael to in some ways is like LeBron, and I see like LeBron's a more compassionate teammate than Michael from the outside perspective. Like and for example, like Kobe Bryant, but like Kobe Bryant's not. If you listen to Kobe Bryant talk, he's not compassionate to his teammates. I listened to someone talking about Kobe and like a story of Kobe, and they were talking about Kobe was like, why, like someone asked him like, why don't you pass your teammates the ball? And he was like, dude, I don't trust them. He's like, we go to practice and they come in late and they leave as soon as practice is done. He's like, why am I going to pass them the ball? I don't trust their work ethic, right? He's like, I don't trust the time that they're putting into their craft. Like I'm here taking X amount of shots after practice. I'm here before practice. I'm here all these times. Like I'm taking the shot, like, cause I trust me and I trust the time I put in. So I think it's the same level. I don't think it's like I think when you reach that level of success and you become so good at something, you look down at other people because you're like, look, you have potential, but you're not even scratching the surface of your potential because you're not putting in the amount of work into your craft to be the best person you could be. And so when you see someone not, or the best, like whatever, player, writer, anything, it could be anything. So when you see other people not putting in that time into their effort, it's like, you're going to trust yourself over the amount that you're going to trust them. But that could backfire too. Like if you're trying to build a business, then that could be like, you don't trust anyone and you try to become a one person business, and that you have a ceiling to that. I think it's different in a sport, right? Like Kobe could go drop 81 points and win nearly a basketball game, right? Whereas business, if you're trying to build a bit like a massive company, if you're trying to build a $100 million company, you need other people. And sometimes like you have to know what's ego, and you have to know the differences between like ego and like where you need help and those kinds of instances. But I think the world needs a balance with both people. They need the visionaries. The visionaries are going to progress humans, the tech. They're going to progress the areas where the people that are employees aren't going to progress. And you need both people. If it wasn't for someone like Elon Musk to take electric vehicles seriously, then who knows how many more years it would be until like electric vehicles would be a substantial part of our life, to the point where they are becoming now, right? And so that's why you need someone Elon Musk in many ways could be seen as compassionate. I don't know how he is right? Like he talks to people on Twitter, but I don't know how he is with his employees, right? Like I know, like the way Steve Jobs treated employees is like just very on like, there's a microscope on it, and people have talked about it and people have wrote about it. So I think it's out in the forefront and people actually have context on it. But I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. Like, yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah. So you mentioned differentiating between ego and treating the right people the right way and knowing that difference. How do you personally do that when you're operating with ego, identifying it and progressing forward?
You just have to know where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And like, at least in business, it's like wherever your strengths are, put most of your time, allocate your time there, because that's where you're going to shine. That's where progress is going to come. Wherever your weaknesses are, you have to be able to acknowledge them, be aware of them, and then that's where you hire. So like, for example, me, I'm more of the creator and like more of the visionary and could get things 0 to 1. But when it comes to operations and organization, that's not my forte. That's not where I am strong. And so therefore, like when I hire, that's going to be the first place I hire, because it's where I need the most help. It's not where I'm strong. And so when I even think about like progression, or an ego in this point, it's like I have to let my ego at the door and be like, okay, this person does this better than me. And if I do truly want to meet my goal down the road, then I need to let my ego at the door and I need to hire someone here so that they could help me get to whatever my goal is. And so the biggest thing when it comes to that is you have to be able to be honest with yourself, and that comes through having awareness or self-awareness, and because that's where like perspective and all these things come into play. Is like if you can't have self-awareness, then you're never going to realize where you could really shine and where you could really progress, and where other people could help you progress and get to your goal.
Self-awareness really is the magic pill for life. And to wrap and recap what we were talking about earlier, meditation is the way personally that I found the greatest benefit to self-awareness. So yeah, couldn't agree more with that.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And I'd also like to know about, we talked about the hustle, and it says now you're working for Gumroad in your bio. I'd love to know what the differences are you see between working for the hustle and a company like Gumroad.
So they're very different. The hustle, I mean, they're both great companies. I love them both. The hustle was more, I mean, it's been named very well. The reason I chose to leave the hustle was because I wanted to focus entirely on my newsletter. The reason I joined Gumroad is because Gumroad has a completely async work culture, which means there's no meetings, there's no deadlines, and you're only allowed to work part-time. So you're only allowed to work 20 hours maximum a week, because Gumroad specifically, and Sahil, who's the founder of Gumroad, he only wants to hire creators. The entire company business is ran by creators and people that are building things outside of their work. At the hustle, that's not the case. It's more so employee, which is fine. It's more so employees and people whose sole focus is to grow the hustle. And not that, like, I think that's fine, but that's just not where I wanted like I don't want all my time to be devoted just towards the hustle and growing the hustle, because like I said, I'm a visionary, and I like to build things, and I like to grow things. And so therefore, when I'm only operating and I'm only being an employee, I'm not like as happy as I can be, and I'm not thriving as much as I can be in life. And so when I work at Gumroad now, when I'm doing my work at Gumroad now, it's like I have my I don't have meetings, I don't have deadlines, and I have all this time and space. Like, I just need to knock out my work. And I like, trust me, like I'm putting in a ton of work in it. I'm making sure it's top level work, right? That's why he hires the people that he hires. But at the same time, I have time to build. I'm not bottlenecked. Like, I could be on Slack whenever I want. I could be on my computer whenever I want. If I get my work done at 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., that's fine. If I get it from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., that's also fine, because it literally doesn't matter to Slack. It's like the entire business is ran through Slack and Notion. We don't even like, that's where we communicate. That's how we communicate. And so therefore, for me personally, as someone who's trying to build something, it's the perfect balance of both, because I get a very good income, but on top of that, I also get to put in a substantial amount of hours into what I'm building. And the perfect like recipe is where I make great money at Gumroad that I then get to use to build MarketingExamined. Like, a lot of my money that I'm going to make from there is going to go into software, into ads, into hiring people, so that I can scale MarketingExamined. So the difference is really the work culture and how they let their employees work, and the balance of like work for us and then work for you, where I don't think that really existed at the hustle, and possibly is like deemed against, or like not looked at in a positive light if you're working full time at the hustle and then working on a side project. But the hustle is also owned by a public company, so it's like at this point too, HubSpot, for instance, can, I'm releasing a marketing product. It could be seen as competition in some ways, even if, the scale of HubSpot in comparison to my company is substantially different. It could still probably be seen as competition. And so those things are why, like, I didn't leave the hustle to join Gumroad. I joined Gumroad because it fit my lifestyle. It fit what I wanted to do. And then it provided me with an income that I could both live my lifestyle and also continue to build things that I want to build.
How do you plan on scaling MarketingExamined?
So MarketingExamined is going to scale via ads. So the free newsletter will scale via ads. So running sponsored posts within there, or not sponsored posts, sorry, sponsored, just like sponsoring different sections, writing ads for X products. On top of that, then one other thing is I'll do like a sponsored email. So for example, a lot of my emails are strategy based and growth hacking and growth marketing. And so, for example, if I write an email, do you know what Zapier is?
Mm-hmm.
So if
you
I
can
write
explain it for people who aren't familiar.
So Zapier is like a software that helps automate different tasks. So if you're using Squarespace, MailChimp in your Google Drive, it would help you it would help you put a form, like take the information from a form on your Squarespace site and send that information into your MailChimp, saying that you added a subscriber to this list, and say somehow you want to connect it to your Google Drive. It will help you take that information and move it into your Google Drive or into like an Excel sheet or something. Those are called Zaps, and Zapier then helps you automate all these things instead of you having to do it manually. So say I write an email completely on automation, in, let's say, email marketing automation. I could go to Zapier and be like, hey, do you want to sponsor this email? And I will basically make this this entire email about how Zapier can help people make more money through automation and save time. That when I think of sponsored content, that's the way I see it. Because at the end of the day, like it's a piece of content that's still going to bring you a ton of value as a consumer. Like you're literally going to learn how to do things. I'm just then giving you the software, like, hey, use this software because this is the one I use, kind of thing. That's how I'll scale the free newsletter. I'm launching a paid newsletter September 1st. And so that's gonna be more deep dives, and that's gonna be long form case studies essentially. If you're familiar with like Harvard Business Review, it's like Harvard Business Review, but specifically for marketing. So it'd be like 20 to 30 page case studies breaking down like world-class marketing efforts and then dissecting them so that consumers can replicate them for their own companies, brands, startups, products. And then the not the last thing, the other thing I'll do is I'm giving you like how I'm gonna scale it in the near future, is a podcast as well. So I'll launch a podcast, which will be a subset of MarketingExamined.
Very cool. And I'm very excited to see how that all unfolds and watch the journey unfold, because
Thank you.
It's exciting to see what you've already done, building up to, I believe, over 9,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
That's wild, and really quickly at that as well. So I'm sure there's just brighter and brighter things ahead.
Hoping, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So before we go to a close, I'd love for you to give some advice to someone who's pursuing the highest version of themselves, whether that's mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it may be. Maybe someone who's 22 years old and who wants to hear how to become a better person tomorrow than they were yesterday.
The biggest thing is to gain momentum and to build the right habits. The right habits will help you gain momentum. So I think the best book I could reference is Atomic Habits. And the best thing I could say is like, if you're trying to form a certain habit that changes your identity and how you want to see yourself, is to whatever you want to become, make sure that you're every day at least do 2 minutes towards that, right? So if I want to be the best writer, okay, and I don't write at all right now, then the best way to become the best writer is to every day for the next, forever, is to at least write 2 minutes. Like just write for 2 minutes, because then you're at least forming the identity of I am a writer, right? Like I am completing the task of writing. And because of that, then you will form momentum. And if you could build momentum, then as you build momentum and as you scratch a curiosity, that's where obsession comes in. And that's when you could get to that level of greatness. I think one of the best things I've heard though too is from Joe Rogan is like, if you're really trying to like get out of a hole and you're really trying to figure things out, is like see yourself as the hero in a movie that you want to be. So like pretend your life's a movie and like you're in that place of just like dog shit and like everything's going to shit and like you don't know where to go, and it's in that part of the movie where everything flips and that person starts grinding and they start like figuring it all out. Well, like imagine your life is a movie and imagine you're the hero in it, and there's a film crew, and now everyone's eyes are on you to like rise yourself up from the ashes and complete and go towards the goal that you want to go towards. And when you could see yourself as the hero, then you could become the hero. Like it's I think and what puts that into perspective is like this Steve Jobs quote where he says everything around you is built by people no different than you. And when you understand that, it's so true. It's like legitimately everything, the headphones you're wearing, the shirt you're wearing, the mic you're using, the art behind me, like all these things done by now rich people are no different than you and I. And so you have to understand like these people that you look up to at some point looked up to someone else, and that is just a loop that continuously happens. So the main things are build the right habits, start building the habits that will get you to where you need to be and then let momentum. Don't ever lose momentum. When you lose momentum, that's one of the hardest things to get back into the swing of things. So make sure you keep momentum towards the areas that you want to go, and then make sure that you continuously see yourself as the hero in your own movie, so that you know where you want to go. You got to have direction. But those would be the main three things I would say if you want to become your best version of yourself. It's like build habits, make sure they gain momentum, and then don't lose sight of you are your own hero, and you could do legitimately anything you want to do, but it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes an obsession to complete those things.
I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Thank
Sweet.
you, Alex,
Yeah, man.
for the time and attention. And I really appreciate you so much, man. It's been great getting to know you. Where can people find more from you?
For sure. So if you want a ton of dissected marketing tactics, growth hacks, essentially in many ways how I'd grow your business if I was like behind the scenes with you and with your team, then sign up for my newsletter, marketingexamined.co. That's an email that I send out twice a week, which is solely focused on helping you turn your marketing dollars into revenue. If you want to chat on social, then both my Instagram and my Twitter are AlexGarcia_ATX or at AlexGarcia_ATX. And hit me up in DMs. Like I'm getting better at responding. So, but those, yeah.
Awesome. We'll put those all below.
Sweet.
Thank you again for taking the time. Really
For
appreciate
sure.
you.
For sure, man. It was great chatting, and I hope to do this again.
Definitely.
All right, man.